Hello.
Hello.
What's up, man?
What's up?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, so we're good?
Yeah.
All right, let me adjust one thing. All right, say something.
Testing. 3.
All right, good deal. All right, I'm going to go and hit button here now. I've actually got an interesting conversation I think you'll enjoy talking about because it's interesting. We talk about it all the time in school. Well, not all the time, but it comes up a lot in criminal justice, actually. All right, so anyways, here we are, folks. I've got our guest on. Mr. Andy is on here with us, a friend of mine for over 30, at least 35, 34.
Yeah, probably about 35.
So, I've got a couple different topics. The first one is actually, Andy, and actually, this is going to be interesting because your lifestyle was kind of different from mine because of the psychology behind how you grow up in a family and, you know, what causes teens to be so destructive at times. So it's going to be interesting to talk about that. And I thought you're kind of a good candidate to talk about it because you grew up, I'm trying to find the right word for it. You grew up in a family of security and stability. I think that
so it was more structured.
Yeah. And guys, the reason I say mine and his is so much different, you'll find out is he kind of tells how, you know, his lifestyle was growing up, and then I want to tell how mine was, and then we're going to kind of collaborate on that and then point out where the destructiveness comes from with teens, and then, you know, either they stop doing it when they get older or
they don't.
So, Andy, give us a background of you growing up, and kind of how it was, you know, laid out, so to speak.
All right, me growing up, of course, I'm totally blind. Starting off at school, I went to the Indiana School for the Blind for preschool program back when I was about 4. Mom and Dad didn't like me being separated from them.
Andy, before you go any further, what was that like? The program they put you in, was it? That was before I even met you, right, kid? That was before kindergarten.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah. They did the preschool program over in Lambert and Outer Hall, I think, because that was just built.
Sorry about that. I had to fix my door.
This would have been back in probably 83, 82.
That's way back.
Yeah, it's way back.
I want to be honest with you. And then we'll continue. I can't even remember a lot back then. I'm amazed that you do. That is interesting. We'll get into that later. So go ahead and continue your story.
So we did that. I stayed up there for I think 2 weeks or something and pulled out of it, and eventually ended up going to KSB, the Kentucky School for the Blind. Lived down in Louisville. The program back up here in Indiana. Probably about 85, I guess. At a school near us. And that went on. I went there basically 1st through 6th grade. So then back in 1990, I started going to the Indiana School for the Blind in Indianapolis. first couple of years I fought it, didn't like it very well. But then once I got, really ninth grade on, I really excelled and did quite well, and I'm really glad I did what I did and graduated well and got that all done, and then went to college to Ivy Tech and got my computer science degree, and now I'm working in retail as a phone operator. Which I've been doing the past 15 years.
Yeah, long time.
Since 2003, yeah.
Long time. It's interesting because now me and Andy's known each other for a long time. Like I said, about
35
roughly
plus.
35, yeah. Growing up, though, Andy, as far as family, yours was very structured as far as support and well-being for yourself, making sure you're taken care of, and etc. Was there ever any moment in your life to where you felt like there wasn't stability or security, or did you feel pretty?
I think everybody goes through small moments of that in their life, especially being young with younger parents at the time. Of course, we're not young now, but that happens. It wasn't anything that I would consider out of the norm.
Yeah. Well, probably, I'm guessing your phase probably happened when you first started going to the blind school, as far as being separated.
Yes, that I like I said, the first couple of years, I really didn't like it at all.
Separation is a hard thing for people to deal with at a young age, and me and Andy both, we had no choice. We had to learn to deal with that. Yeah. Me and him started out. So for me, pretty much the same thing, guys. I don't even remember ever going to a preschool. So if I did, I just don't remember. And we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, because it's interesting when I think about it. But anyways, I started out in a public school, and that's where I met Andy. Me and him was in I would say it was more of a special ed class because of our disability, not really because of...
Not every class is special ed. Some of the classes were mainstream classes with other public kids.
Yeah.
And the only things that are really special education would be reading, writing, math. Science was regular. Social studies, history, that was regular.
Did we not? I can't remember. I thought we had her starting out all day, the one teacher. I'm not going to say her name for her own privacy, but the one that really cared about us.
Yes. Let's see. In the beginning,
I thought we had her all day. In the beginning, I think we did.
No, I don't think I did.
No?
I always, even like in first grade, I had mainstream classes.
You know what? I think you're right. Yeah. Yep, you're right. We had her in the morning time, I believe.
Correct. Well, yes.
And then sometimes we had her in the afternoon, I thought. Maybe not.
Yes.
Yeah, because there were times when she would go to the bus with us. I remember that. So anyways, guys, I started out with Andy pretty much the same way. I did not go to KSB, which is Kentucky School for the Blind. I did not do that. But then we both started in public school. That wasn't working for him nor me. Educationally, it was just better to go to a blind school at the time, which I don't know if we're going to get into this today or not, but it's not the same today like it was back then. Totally different topic, and it'll throw us way off track. So
we will get into that another time.
That's right. Another podcast covering pretty much the same kind of topics.
The present and future of
blind schools.
Blind education.
Yep.
Which is very interesting.
So we're going to try to do this at least once a week, guys. Bring you guys some topics like this. So let me move on. I went to the blind school as well, okay? And from the start, I had a problem with it. Now, in the beginning, I recognized the problem, and then it kind of just wasn't always me recognizing that I had a problem being gone. It turned into just a pattern of just me being unstable. And like I told you guys, I did not accept my conditions for a very long time. Very long time. I was trying to do things like a sighted person. I was trying to put myself in the middle of the sighted community, and it just kept on. It was nothing but disasters every time. No, I didn't do any, hard drugs or nothing like that. I drank a little, smoked cigarettes, the typical teenager thing. The difference being Andy graduated at the blind school. I did not. I don't know if you remember, Andy, I did a vlog on this telling my story growing up, where I had to go back to school as an adult to get my diploma and all that. It's just not a fun thing to do. If you are visually impaired at all, you need to figure it out and don't throw it out, because going back and doing it all over, I'm going to tell you what, it's not a walk in the park. I'm going to tell you that right now.
No, it would be much more difficult.
And you need to think about this. If you are in that condition or situation, and look, we get it. Andy gets it. I get it. It's not fun. It's not fun being the different person, right? But today, the rules are changing all the time with education. Even like the testing, everything is just changing. So think wisely. Seriously, don't throw it out. Whatever you're going through, try to figure it out. If you can't figure it out, you're going to have to learn to speak up, or else it'll catch up with you. It will.
Yep.
So back to, I dropped out. Now, let me tell you another reason why. Now, I'm not blaming my whole family for everything, but I was not in a stable family. I was not. Andy will tell you that. I will tell you that. I was learning to take care of myself at a very young age. And that's not me saying, oh yeah, big John, give him a big pat on the back. I'm telling you that because that was the reality of it. Okay? There was many times when even Andy's parents was doing things for me because no one else was. They were showing the care and all that. So back to the stability, there was no stability when I was growing up. And that played a big part on the path I went down. On top of me not accepting who I was, on top of me, being a teenager, getting in trouble, and just not caring. But there was a huge difference. See, Andy's growing up with his family. There was stability, there was security, there was love and care. Not me. And I'm okay with that today, but back then I was not okay with it, but I didn't talk about it. I don't even think I talked even to my best friend about what I really felt about my family. I always avoided talking about my family. If you think about it, and when I think about it.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
I did a lot of avoiding, We'd go home on the weekends, okay, guys? Me and Andy both would go home on a Friday. We leave on a Sunday, go home on a Friday. Now, when Andy got home, it was a normal family thing, right?
Yeah.
When I got home, it was not. When I got home, it was... some weekends I would spend sitting outside of my mom's mobile home at the time while they were out working in the field or whatever, and I would have to sit there all day. Not go in, because even before I did anything to get in trouble, I wasn't allowed to be in my own home by myself. Even before I'd ever done anything, to say, hey, he might get into trouble, right?
Why is this?
I don't know. I do know, after I got in some trouble at school and, all that, I could understand when you do something to take away trust, that gives a logical reason why, right? But when you...
But if this is before that...
It was before, way before.
Then there's something else there.
We're talking 8 years old, 9 years old, I was sitting outside.
Gotcha.
And my younger... Guys, I really didn't get in a lot of trouble when I was young, from say 7-ish up to probably 12. I'd say it's about accurate.
Yeah.
I kind of did what I needed to do. I was trying. I got involved in sports. That went out the door. And I'm going to tell you 2 reasons why. One, I still wasn't accepting where I was. And Andy knows that. If anybody knows anything about me, he knows. I dropped out of sports because my parents never showed up for anything. No support. None. I did piano, I did wrestling, I did track. I think I did swimming, but I only did that a short time. But they were never there. Now, who did I have to support me? It was Andy's mom and dad, because they would come and things would go on at school and he would be there. And obviously they were there for him, but they were also there to tell me good job.
Right, when we were doing things together.
They always gave me that sense of love and care, right? So having an unstable family plays a big part in what you do as a teenager. And I'm not telling, if you are a teenager and you're listening to this, we're not saying go out and get in trouble because it's going to be your parents' fault.
Nope. Because the decision definitely comes down to you.
You still have a decision to make. Like Andy said, you got a choice. Now, evidently, everything that happens, how you're raised and supported plays a big part in a lot of things in your younger life. It just does. And I did wisen up at about, like I told you guys before, my story is as legit as it can be and as honest as 100%. About 22 is when I started trying to turn things around and obviously get myself together. Obviously, I got, a girl pregnant, and that, if there's anything that I did right, it was being there for my children. No matter what, I was always there for my children. Our divorce, my marriage didn't last forever, but I did what I said I was going to do. I told myself, if I do get a divorce, I will not get a divorce until my kids are old enough to understand. And that's exactly what I do. Andy will tell you. He knows. It was much, much later where my kids were well into their upper teens. Difference being, usually when a family divorces, the father and mother separate back and forth every week. That's not the way it is with me. I still play 100% in my kids' life, and so does my ex-wife. And because we want them to have more than what we have. We want them to live a better life than what we lived, right? So, with that said, Andy, when you look at juveniles, there's a huge misunderstanding as well with this, because when people hear juvenile, they think that the teen's doing horrible things, and that's not the case all the time. A juvenile that gets in trouble, it could just be for skipping school, or, there's a lot of small things that really are not crimes, but it's still considered, a juvenile,
delinquents.
There's just a huge misunderstanding with it. Like, a lot of people don't understand that when they hear juvenile. What do you think they're going to think? They're going to think, oh, that's a bad kid, automatically. But here's the problem. There are kids that are doing things bad. So, Andy, what is your opinion on growing up as a teen with a broken family? Either the father... Now, my father was gone. My father left my mom when I was real little. But I did have a stepdad. And, Andy, you know who that is.
Correct.
He did a good job taking care of the family. As far as keeping a roof over the head, there's a whole lot more, but I'm not going to get into full detail on that. Not this moment anyways. We'll talk about it another time. But what do you think about the crimes that are committed by juveniles, not skipping school, the more serious crimes? What do you think leads them there?
Lack of attention.
I like that. That's...
You're going to find attention somewhere, no matter what. Good, bad, whatever. As long as you get the attention, you get the gratification, even though it's temporary gratification, you still get that. Even though it's bad gratification, you still get gratified.
Do you think that there's something that us as a community and those that are involved with, like criminal justice, stuff like that, do you think there's anything that even the community or criminal justice, different law officials could do to help improve this?
The only way to improve this problem is society itself. It doesn't matter what laws you make. That's not the problem. The problem is stabilization of families. There has to be a mother and a father figure in these families. As long as it maintains that status of a lot of single families, single mothers with single kids, such and such, this problem will not go away.
What's interesting is when a child is temporarily taken away from his mother and put into the system, and I'm talking about temporary...
we're talking about foster care.
Foster care. The problem is these days is they're not as detailed anymore. They just want to put the kid in the system.
And part of the reason is due to the number of kids that are in the system. It is way
that's true.
Way too much.
But let me tell you something.
It is out of control.
And I don't know if this would be shocking to you or not, but let me tell you something else that's interesting.
Probably not.
Is when these kids go to the courts to get put on a system, put in the system. You've got someone there to defend this group, that group, but the problem is the teen itself, or them, or him or her, no one's there really to defend the child.
Well, there are court advocates that the child can get, but then once again, we're getting into the same situation again.
Yeah, exactly.
There are too many kids and too many cases for not enough people to work the system and work it correctly, it is way, way over.
Well, and I think there could be better programs, Andy, as far as helping the family instead of just taking them all apart. Let's figure out some ways to also.
Well, I mean, honestly, they do try to keep a lot of these kids in their families.
I think.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, guys. We got some laughing going on. We had some on the side discussions going here. Which totally off topic. Okay.
With nothing. Nothing. Totally pointless.
Oh,
we love you, Psycho Mom. We love you.
Yes. Well, I mean. Oh, man. I tell you.
Totally off topic.
It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood. Anyways, I think that, I mean, I see it all the time where there's, you got someone in here defending the parent that might have gotten in trouble. But there's hardly any support. Like literally, hardly any support to the teen themselves, and
it's. Well, I mean, there's reasons why. A lot of it is just overcrowding of the system. Another thing is these caseworkers are underpaid, overstaffed.
That too, and there's not very many attorneys or lawyers that are in to do that kind of stuff. They just there's not enough people to keep up with the amount of children that are put through the system.
Well, and it's because of the explosion of kids into the system due to families and adults getting arrested for meth and heroin.
Well, and some of these kids stay in the system for. Some of these kids stayed in the system for several months.
No, it's some of it's years, Johnny.
And it's so unfortunate. It really is. I mean, and this, whether adults want to admit this or not, this is why we see a lot of these crimes that are committed by teens. Serious crimes.
It is because two things: lack of family and lack of education. Those are probably the two main things that contribute to overall juvenile crime rate and all that.
Well, and I've not got into it very much yet, but you have your psychopaths, which they are like that from the get-go. Their mind is already, it's already there. It's already set.
Correct. Some people are,
and then some people are messed up later on, and I forget the word. It's not called psychopath. It's something I can't think of the word.
Psychosis.
Well, they go through like different types of drama that messes them up, and then all of a sudden they become just not thinking they're not with us the right way anymore, and they go out.
Well, and a lot of times too, people that should take medication for bipolar and depression and stuff like that, they don't, or they mismanage their medication, which is just as bad.
Well, go back and look at most murderers. If you look at their past, there's always been some sort of problem with their family growing up. There's always been something that's happened to them.
And it borders down to one thing: is lack of attention. They want attention. Even though killing somebody, that's terrible, but you know what? That's going to get them attention.
Yeah.
It may be wrong attention, but it's not going to matter to them. It's attention.
Take a look at Iceman.
They're getting noticed.
You remember the Iceman?
Yes.
He was, guys, this was definitely someone that you did not want to get on your bad side, because he killed several people before anybody ever even knew. He lived a normal life. He had kids, a wife, but he had his dark side. And it all goes back to his father.
Correct.
It all went back to his father. And he told people on interviews that if you had a loud mouth and you was around me, I'm going to kill you. Now, why is that? Because his father was loud to him and abused him. So it's
And when he was around that situation, that caused major rage in him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's so unfortunate. It really is, because when people say, "Oh gosh, I don't know why he became that way, or why she did that," or why, when in reality, it all goes back to how they were raised. I'm not saying every person, okay, but
because some people cannot make that turn in life to where they have to say, you know what, I'm such and such age. It's time for me to control.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not let the past control. Some people cannot do that.
Do you remember the case? I'm not going to say locations or nothing, but you remember the feller that didn't live far from me and ended up murdering his grandpa and grandma?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. I did not know this until last year. Okay. He had been severely, mentally, and physically abused. Severely. I found that out, and that was facts.
By who, though? You don't have to say who, but was it by
both of them?
The people that he killed?
Yes.
So this was a revenge.
It was, yeah. And it was, I think that he felt that it was his only way to get away from it. Their home, Andy, was
this, I can't remember, was this individual a adult when this happened, or
no,
a
teenager? It was only 13 or 14.
Okay. Yep.
You know which case I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, but here's my next question on that. Why didn't his parents? Was that a bad situation too?
From my understanding, his parents was not in the condition to take care of him. He was abused by them too, and that's why he had.
Okay.
Now
he had nowhere to go.
And here's the thing. CPS, is that what you call it? CPS?
Yep.
They would get called all the time, show up, and everything appeared to be okay, but it really wasn't.
Correct, because they can hide it.
And CPS would just close the case.
Yep.
So this child had no way to escape. Now, I'm not saying it's okay for what he did, because it's not.
No,
but
it's not.
It's also not his fault for the amount of abuse that he put up with. He was beaten on. He was not fed properly. I mean, they were using the bathroom in buckets in their home. Okay? When he got released from prison, he told his parole officer, and again, that's why I'm not saying names or anything. I don't want to put any of that out there, but he actually left Indiana. He didn't even want to be anywhere in Indiana or not Indiana, Kentucky. He left, but he left. Yes. And he's living the rest of his normal life as much as he can. I believe he's probably in his mid-40s now, I would guess.
Should be.
Yeah, because he's close to our age.
Correct.
And you know what, guys? He was a good kid. he was a good friend. He was a friend of mine for a while. We would hang out.
He was a good kid put in a very bad situation.
He didn't, he wasn't rude. He was always respectful. But let me tell you where really the answer lied, and no one saw it, was his quietness. He was super, super quiet.
Which is not a good thing, normally.
If someone's quiet, that's okay, but if they're quiet all the time,
and never have any outbursts at all,
then
it's not necessarily a good thing.
There's a lot of bells going off upstairs.
It's okay to go off every once in a while. It's healthy.
Yeah.
Because you can't. There's stress in life that happens.
You can't bottle it up.
Yeah, I had an explosion this past week, but I'll get into that later with you, John. It was quite interesting.
Yeah, we'll have to. I sure hope you do, considering we're best friends.
Yes.
Listen.
This situation's not exactly cleared up, but I'll explain to you that after the podcast.
I'm sorry they took your Viagra. I'm so sorry.
Yes, they give me the damn generic brand, and it just doesn't pump up the volume. So.
Oh, goodness. Guys, listen, if you are listening to this, and if you are a teen, or even if you're an adult, I want to tell you something very important. If you have no one to talk to in your life, find someone.
Yep.
Make
absolutely.
a friend. A person you can trust. And if you can't at all make a friend or someone you can talk to, then you need to go to a counselor. Look, you're not a bad person if you need a counselor, but don't hold it in.
No, it's very dangerous.
It's not healthy. You could end up going off the deep end and something happening, or
you're either going to hurt yourself or somebody else, and you will regret it in the long run.
Yep. Or it calls you just to be unhealthy and have a stroke or a heart attack, or, everybody needs somebody. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody needs somebody. Remember that.
Yes. Correct.
So, throughout this podcast, we've been talking about growing up, as a child, and why do teens end up doing the things they do. I think we've covered some pretty good points here. Now, being we're not live, what I'm going to allow you to do, and maybe next time we'll go live and do this. Maybe next week we'll go live, Buck, and do the same thing.
We can do that.
But for this podcast, if you got questions, leave them in the comments below. I will relay the questions to Andy. If you got a question for him or for me, and we'll answer it in our next stream that we do. I think we'll go live next time and give you guys the ability, maybe you're going through something and you need some advice. We're here to do that for you. Now, not myself nor Andy, we're not professional psychologists. This is our opinions. That's it. Okay? So don't be like, oh, well, that guy there told me I should do it this way. Look, we're not telling you to do anything at all, but just giving you our advice on if it was me or if it was Andy, how would we handle it? So,
if it was something very drastic, I would tell the person to go seek professional help.
And let me state something else very clearly. If you are a teen or an adult, doesn't matter, and you're in a situation that you feel like you can't get out of, do not just put it to the side. If there is no one for you to talk to where you're at, and you feel like you're stuck, you need to go to the authorities, a counselor. Don't. You will ruin your life, because something bad will happen, and then you'll be stuck behind bars for the rest of your life or a better part of your life regretting.
Or gone.
Or gone. You got to make the choice. And look, we get it. Bad situations, sometimes that's, just the way we feel, like we're stuck. You're never stuck. There's always a way. The right way.
There's always a way out. Sometimes it's not very easy, but there it is always.
Guys, I went through a marriage that turned into a lot of mental abuse. Honestly, I should be thankful because I got lucky that it didn't mess me up. And it was pretty bad. Andy even knows. It was pretty bad. But I kept it together and also had a plan. It was a long-term plan, but it was the best way to do it, considering, if you got kids, make sure you consider them on every single move that you make, because it does affect them. All right? So, before we go, Andy, don't hang up, because I'm going to keep talking to you here. Like I said, next week, I think we're going to start doing this once a week. I enjoy doing this. This will be fun. It's a chance for us to, help people if we can. And then other times we might just do podcasts, just cutting up, having fun. But this type of stuff, it gives me and Andy both a chance to give you guys what we've experienced and learned throughout our life, to maybe hopefully help you get through something. And let me tell you what, you only live once. And if you make the wrong choice and it's super bad,
you're never going to get it back.
You'll never get it back, because we can't hit rewind, folks. Before I go, I want to bring this up because I'll forget about it. Us talking about all this brought my attention back to the Watts case. Chris Watts. He was a nice guy. He was quiet. Not super quiet, but he was quiet. Quiet as in polite. He wasn't rude. He wasn't. But there's a lot coming out about his family and how the mother is very dominant. Apparently it was so bad, that's why Chris wanted to move to Colorado, was to get away from his family. So, even though they had nothing to do with maybe the murder in general, I think we need to rethink, because maybe they did. I don't know if you knew this, Andy. I just found this out. Chris's parents did not like Shanann. They did not like her. No. Did not like her. The dad did an interview the other day. Well, I heard it the other day. Sorry, it wasn't the other day. But listen to an interview from the dad, Chris's dad, with the detective when this happened. And the only thing the dad could do is sit there and put down Shanann. Oh, she can go from 0 to 100 in just a few seconds. She's bipolar. He called her all kinds of stuff and put her down. Here she is, missing. And instead of trying to figure out, where she's at, him being concerned about that while talking to the detective, he's more worried about talking about how bad she is and how bad she was to his family. Why? Tell me that doesn't raise a red flag to you.
It sure does.
Different time for another podcast, we'll talk about that. We'll get into it. We'll listen to a little bit of the interview.
And then we'll break it down.
And I believe on that one, I'm going to wait until Buck comes over. He's going to be coming over soon to the studio. We'll listen to it, and we'll break it down and see what you guys think. So, Andy, I'll let you say what you want to say, and then I'll say goodbye. We'll stop the podcast, and we'll carry on our conversation.
Correct. And I will say, everybody have a good rest of the day, and the next time, peace out.
And you guys, thank you for listening to this podcast. I appreciate every single one of you. Just know that if you are someone going through something, just know this, that me and Andy both understand. We get it. Even though Andy didn't go through a rough family, because of him being my best friend, he got to experience a lot of things that I did go through, because that's what best friends do. That's how it works. And there's no one else that I would share my life with like I do my best friend. I would not tell anyone else like I do him. So if you got a best friend, keep your best friend. And like I said, find someone to talk to if you need to. It's never too late to change your life around, but it is too late if you go to prison or if you end up doing something to yourself. You guys take care. Give us a thumbs up. Be sure to tap on that bell to set your notifications, and hit that subscribe button if you've not joined us yet. And until next time, you guys take care.